and other important matters. This is one of those things that it will never be a bad time to talk about it. And it's what I call the retreat of intellectualism in Jamaica and in the world, but especially in Jamaica. We live here, we see it every day, we feel it. And what do I mean? Let me set it up. In any country that is progressive, that has democratic ideals, that affords its people a level of freedom to think, say, and act independently, and where all views are encouraged to contend, where the system of governance, one person, one vote, where people are facilitated to oppose ideas, to submit ideas, to postulate, and where the society embraces all of the different opinions and sees it as valuable in the construction and development of society. It is important for those among us who are learned, who massive investment has been put into them getting an advanced level of education, and who themselves serve as the teachers, the facilitators, the lecturers of subsequent generations. It is important for those people to be front and center of the national discourse, because it is on the weight of their intellect that constructive ideas are created that shape and facilitate and maintain the democracy that we so enjoy. Yes, where people, they call and they say everything. I mean, some people toe the line, some people erase the line, they rub it out and them just speak. They just do as they feel a mind to. And it is facilitated, it is allowed to a certain extent. There are laws against using the internet to damage someone's character, but the line is so, sometimes the line don't exist. And people, you know how we are as Jamaicans, give us an inch. We are the expert mile takers of all the peoples in the world, and we don't need any invitation to go beyond what we are allowed to do. So that's the kind of society that we're in. But it needs the brightest among us to contribute to the discourse, to bring the rest of society along, to shape perspective. It's not about somebody telling you something that will change your mind. It is about someone putting something on the table that causes you to think. You can either abandon the idea you had, you can either refine the idea you had, or you can reasonably say, well, you know what? Based on the strength of what you say and what I know to be true, I'm totally rejecting what you are saying, and I'm even firmer in my conviction and belief. It is how society works. What we've seen over the past several years is a retreat from the public discourse of those who are equipped, those who the investment has been put in. And it doesn't matter if you paid your own school fee to go to university. The fact is that there's a system that facilitates your education. Yeah. And even if, as I said, even if you paid your own money, the system still makes an investment in you on top of your own direct contribution to the education that you now own. And so it is incumbent upon you to share with the society the wisdom and knowledge that you have gained. And in your role as a shaper of young minds, the person that channels thoughts and ideas, the person who breaks down difficult concepts, the person who encourages people to think a certain way, to think certain ways, to think in no way defined, but just to think and then do. It is important that you don't retreat from the national discourse. Over recent years, our universities have abandoned this responsibility. They have absconded. They have donned the tools and they have retreated. Us in media depend on these thought leaders to contribute to the discourse that we engage in, the topics that emerge out of the budget debate, the topics that emerge out of the day-to-day governance of the country. We depend on these people to break down concepts where the concepts are difficult, to articulate a perspective that can bring everyone up to the level at which the situation is, for the understanding of that situation, for them to contribute to the discourse, what their understanding and experience tells them should be the right thing to say and do. And in that way, the society becomes richer. But because people trained at the University of the West Indies, the University of Technology, Northern Caribbean University, just to name those three, not just them alone, but to name those three. Gone are the days when you're in a newsroom and you have an issue that you want to discuss and somebody say, okay, call the Department of Government of UA and ask them for somebody. Nobody now come. Nobody's coming. Is it that the Department of Government at the UWI is empty? No. It is people, it is staffed by professionals. But those professionals, for whatever reason, and I don't know the reason, but those professionals no longer contribute to national discourse. Try to get somebody at my alma mater, the University of Technology, to speak to any issue in the public domain. You have one gentleman that one of my producers told me is always willing. You have a very, very good senior gentleman who you have to pressure him phone for him to say yes. But when he does say yes, he's good value based on what the feedback from the listeners is. But beyond those two, I call it 1.5 or one and piece, nobody willingly answers the call from my alma mater. NCU, worse. You can't get anybody out of these. Say it to yourself, how are these people who are in the business of training and shaping young minds, who are thought leaders, why have they abandoned their responsibility? Why is it that their intellect is not being put to use? Why is it that they are afraid to confront issues, to break down issues, to engage in a national conversation that will benefit those members of their audience? It might seem like a simple thing to you. You might say, but George, are wasting time to talk about this, but it's not important. It is, because if you look at the history of the country, if you look at those gentlemen and ladies who've led talk shows, who've fronted talk shows, those who have contributed to talk shows, those who've written columns in the newspaper, those who contribute to discussions that inform policy then inform and inform policy, and then of course goes into legislation. These thought leaders have always been prominent in our country. But no, you call the head of a department and they say, no, they can't speak. And why are they afraid to speak? Perhaps it is that because we've become so politically tribal. And a man might afraid, so you call him Labour Right or PNP, depending on how he breaks down, he or she breaks. Well, a man might consider how he breaks on an issue, making him vulnerable to accusations that he is a Labour Right or he's a comrade, and they don't want that, so they retreat. But that's too simplistic a reason for you to retreat. The fact is that if we don't want to continue on our path to become a nation of glorified dunces, we have to call out those at our premier tertiary institutions and ask, why have they relinquished this responsibility? Why have they abandoned this duty to help a nation like ours, which is not very old? 64 is not old in context of a country. Why have they abandoned their duty to help this country to continue talking about the things where that talk can influence the kind of action that will redound to the benefit of all of us? It makes no sense whatsoever. You're a university lecturer. You lead a department. You're a professor of this. And you don't speak to the public. To whom do you speak? The people in your closed user group? You fly here, you fly there, you accept an award for being a thought leader. Where is your thought, or where are your thoughts leading you and anybody else to? Are they only confined to the people in your lecture, the people in your tutorial on a Monday afternoon or on a Tuesday morning? We have to demand better from them. And in the absence of them, people like us who are front-facing to the public and want to give you a better experience of a certain issue, we're left to call on a few people who you rage about. Lord God, him again, she again, but him again and she again make themselves available. So I say this morning, Dr. Christine Clark, I thank you very much from the UWI. You always make yourself available. Damian Gordon always makes himself available from the UWI. And the people, they will call upon them till I'm tired of we know, I'm sure. But these are just some of the intellectuals who actually lend themselves to the public discourse. Dr. Maziki Thame, opposition senator now, was also very kind and generous with her time and always lifted a conversation when she was part of it. And I thank her for the service that she gave while she was able to do it. She's in the Senate now as an opposition senator, so that she doesn't function in the same way anymore. But if you know a lecturer, if you know somebody at university who is in the business of instruction and education, ask them why they have left this vacuum for the idiots and the dunces to populate. Ask them what value is their education and their learning and their training if they're not using it to help the nation to understand, to grow and develop. It's something that hurts me. I've spoken to the principal, the leader of one of these institutions seriously, and the lament from him is that, boy, we don't have the talent like one time. People not committed like one time. We have to change that. It has to change if this country is to be better.